Hi everyone, welcome back to another PSO2 New Genesis video. Today I'm going to be looking at some of the recently added relay limited time quests and how I think SEGA could be onto something with this kind of content. So first, for those unfamiliar, what exactly were the relay quests? A relay quest is a type of limited time quest, or LTQ, where the content would change every 48 hours. Now by this I don't mean that just the enemies would change, I mean that the entire quest would change. So from the relay quests that we've seen so far, there have been things like solo quests, such as running through an area and then exploiting the interactable objects to clear as fast as possible with fighting a boss at the end. There have been target quests, which were kind of similar to the cannonball quests, you know, the ones that are never done anymore. This was one in Central City where you basically had to break loads of targets. And there was even a quest where you fight Gigantic's Great Rapes. I really wish I had footage of this one because it was as ridiculous as it sounds. So the footage I'm using in the video is from the relay quest Scorched Plains battle. This one was a points collection quest for up to 12 players, where the goal was to collect 120,000 points. Points were earned in a variety of different ways. So for example, bosses would spawn around the map and would reward points for defeating them. There were also yellow targets to break, as well as green barrels hidden around the map which would also award bonus points. There was even some raised platforms which had Lucille style switch puzzles on them, which again would award points for completing them. I actually really enjoyed this quest as you could change up your approach every single run. In one run you might want to focus on bosses, and in the next run you might feel like solving some puzzles instead, and the quest allowed you to do that. It gave you a little bit of variety in exactly how you wanted to run the quest, which I really liked. Now these quests were actually worth doing as well because the rewards were actually pretty good for them. So from what I could tell, all of the relay quests seem to offer the same rewards, from what I could understand. They seem to offer a few Evolve 1, 2 and 3s. They also gave Ectovans 1, 2 and 3s. They also gave Progress Grinders and a chance at 12 weapons. So they were a fantastic way of being able to farm for the materials for the Acrocelio and Acrostasis armors and weapons. So really efficient way of hunting for those. If you compare it to something like Darkfall's Vial, which would typically offer 3 to 5 Evolve 3s, and even something like Lucille, which would give a couple of Ectovans 3s a run, you can quickly see that these limited time quests were a much more efficient way of being able to farm for those bits of gear. Now, the downside of these LTQs is precisely that, the fact that they're LTQs. I assume that this means that at some point they are going to disappear, and we'll potentially be back to farming Vial and Lucille for Acro materials. This honestly is a shame because I genuinely feel that SEGA are onto something with this kind of quest. For starters, the rewards are actually great considering how quick and simple the quests are. If you don't want to feel like you have to run Vial every single time the urgent quest's announced, then these were a great opportunity to build up your materials towards Acrocelio and Acrostasis. Secondly, because the entire quest changes every 2 days, it kept the LTQ fresh. Often I find that I'll get tired of running the same LTQ over and over again, but with these relay quests the changeover would mean that I'd never really get tired of them. Now, I think that most of us who play NGS would likely agree that the game does suffer from a lack of worthwhile permanent content. SEGA have made strides to address this recently by making things like Lucille actually worth doing, and also by adding other permanent content like the Extra Duel. However, I think that by adding a permanent relay style quest, it would be a fantastic way to keep players entertained. Now, I am aware that Lucille is getting a gameplay overhaul soon that's going to completely change how it works, which might go some way towards solving this issue, but regardless, I think that this is the kind of quest that is exactly what the game needs at the minute. Now sure, some of the relay quests weren't great. The target destruction one in Central City, for example, I found quite dull. But again, because of the quick turnaround time for the quests, even if you don't like one, it'll change within 48 hours anywhere. Now clearly, by having a permanent version of this quest type that churns out Evolve 3s and Ectovans 3s, it is an issue because it would invariably make quests like Lucille and Darkfall's Vial kind of pointless. With some small balance changes though, I do think that a quest like this relay quest could work and be a worthwhile permanent addition to the game. Even if the quest only rotated once a week, and the Evol and Ecto rewards were reduced slightly, I think most players would still welcome the extra content as ongoing content that you could do anytime. In a game that relies heavily on seasonal or limited time quests, it does get exposed somewhat when there's no LTQ available, and you realise that there isn't a huge amount of standing content as SEGA call it. By repurposing these relay quests into permanent content, we could go some way towards solving that issue. Now hopefully SEGA are using these relay LTQs as a testbed to judge player response, and that in time we get more ever-present content like this. I personally found the relay quests so far to be, on the whole, pretty fun, and they were very respectful of their time as well, averaging about 2 to 4 minutes a run for most of them, depending on the party. When the grind to kit out characters with Acrocelio and Acrostasis can be a lot of work, particularly if you have multiple characters. Having a quick way to farm some of these materials was genuinely a huge help, and I just think that it varies the game up enough and gives you some content to do when there's no LTQ available, which I think is where NGS does kind of fall short a bit at the minute. So if we can repurpose these limited time quests and make them available constantly, even if the rewards are adjusted somewhat, I think it will be a worthwhile addition. So I would like to hear what you guys think as well. I'm aware that my opinion might not be the same as some other people's, and I'm genuinely not sure what the player reception has been like to these quests. For me, for the most part, I've really enjoyed them. I found them to be a really useful method for farming parts for the Acrocelio and Acrostasis gear, and it meant that I didn't have to just endlessly spam Darkfall's Vial, which I was kind of getting a bit sick of. So I really appreciated these quests, and I thought they were fun enough and kept things interesting enough. Like, you know, because they change every 48 hours, it meant that they were quite fresh. But I'm interested to see, would you guys like to see something like this as more permanent content in NGS? I'm not talking about the exact same quests, but it's something in the same vein or something similar. Would you be interested in seeing this come to NGS in a more permanent capacity? So let me know in the comments what you think. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider either liking, subscribing, or joining as a member on YouTube. You can also follow us over on Twitch at Section Skyline. I also have a X and a Blue Sky that are both Section Skyline, and a Discord server that you can join as well, so feel free to join that. The link to that should be in the description as well. Yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.